Okay, so on this video, I'm going to show you how to calculate percentages, how to convert numbers into percentages, and how to calculate a percentage of a certain number, right? So this is the percentage. Now, you've got 0 to 100%. 100% means the total. The total will always be 100%, right? Then half of it will be 50%, right? 50% will be half, right? And then a quarter will be 25%, right? So which means you've got 4 quarters, and then you've got 4 quarters will represent the total, and then 2 halves will represent the total, and then what else do you have? And then 3 quarters. 3 quarters will be 75%. 3 quarters are 75%, right? Okay, now let's do the numbers. So firstly, you want to understand, let's say you are given 500, right? You have 500 rands, right? Now that 500 rands, you want that 500 has increased, right? Has increased by 10%, right? Now you want to know how much did it increase it by. You want to know the 10% in as an amount, right? So what you will do, you will say 500 rands times 10%, and then you get the answer, which is 50 rands, right? Now that's your 10% of 500 rands, which means 10% represents 50. 10% of 500 is represented by 50 rands. Now let's say you want to calculate you are told that you've got 550. So the question gives you 550, and then they tell you that this 550 was previously 500. They want to know how much is the increase. 550 for the current month was 500 in the previous month. How much is the increase, right? Firstly, you will work out the difference. 550 minus 500, it gives you 50 rand. Now you want to know this 50 rand. You want to know this 50 rand in terms of percentage. So you will say 50 divided by the original price. The original is 500, right? Because in the previous month it was 500. Let's say you've got May here, you've got April here, so that it becomes clear, right? Now this is the original, so you want to know how much. So you will say times, divide by the original price times by 100, which gives you, which gives you 10%. Right. Now, let's work out another example. They say a price of a sneaker was 800 rands in June, right? So in July it was 650 in July, so which means it decreased. Now you want to understand, you want to know in terms of percentage, how much was the decrease? How much was the decrease? Firstly, you will work out the difference, right? 800 minus 650 gives you 150. And then you take 150, you divide by the original price. You divide by 800 rands, and then you say times by 100. So it will give you the percentage, which in this case is 18.75%. Right, rounding off to 2 decimal places. So that's your decrease. You want to understand the decrease. Here we're talking about the increase. Here we're talking about the decrease. Right. Now, let's take another examples. Right. In a class of learners, you've got a total of 500 learners, right? Out of that 500 learners, 300 have passed the test. 200 have failed the test. So the question is, what is the percentage of the students who passed the test? So you will take 300, you divide by the total. You say times by 100. Then when it says what is the percentage of, okay, let's see, the percentage is probably 60%, but let's see. So it's 60%. Then what is the percentage of students who failed? You will say 200 divided by 500 times by 100. It will give you 40%. Right. So you've got 40%, 60 and 40, and then the total is 100. Always the total is 100. Right. Now, we talked about the increase, we talked about the decrease, we talked about the percentage in terms of representation, right? In terms of representation. Now let's work another example which relates to representation, right? Which relates to representation, right? Now you've got let's say you've got 80,000 doctors in South Africa, registered medical doctors in South Africa, right? Now they say out of that total, 60% is black. They say 10% is Indian. They say 25% is white. And then they say, what is the difference? So they say 15%. It's 15%, right? So this, oh, it's 5%. 5% is colored, right? Now they want to know how many registered medical doctors were black, how many were Indian, how many were white, how many were colored, right? So you will take 80,000, you say times by 60%, you get black. Then Indian, you will say 80,000 times by 10%, which represents Indians. Then for whites, you will say 80,000 times by 25%, which represents whites. And then for coloreds, you will say 80,000 times 5% is equal to. Now let's work out 60%. So you've got 48,000, which means 48,000 doctors were black. 8,000 were Indian, right? And then 20,000 were white, and then 4,000 were colored. So it must give you the same total, right? It must give you the same total. Now you will say 48,000 plus 8,000 plus 20,000 plus 4,000. It gives you 80,000, which is the total, which is 100%. Even when you add the percentages, it gives you 100%. Now, I want us to make another example. You've got the same information, right? Let's say you don't have this one. You don't have this one. You've got the same statistics. They say in South Africa in 2023, the race representation of registered medical doctors was 60% black, 10% Indian, 25% white, and 5% colored. Now they say, the question says, if colored were 4,000, how many were the rest of other races, right? So in this case, you will say for black, I'll say B, right? You say 4,000 times by, you want black, 60 over 5, because you've got Indians as 5%, right? Sorry, coloreds as 5%. Then for Indians, you will say I, and then you say 4,000 times by 10 over 5, right? And then for whites, you say 4,000 times by 25 over 5. Remember that golden rule that we applied on VAT. You always divide by the percentage of the amount that you are using, which in this case you divided by 100, because you are using the total. The total is 100%, right? You divided by 100. So in this case, we're dividing by 5 because we're using 5. Now, Remember, the total must give you 80,000 because we've already worked it out. It's the same example. Now you'll say 4,000 times by 60 over 5. It gives you the correct 48,000 for blacks. And then you say 4,000 times by 10 over 5. It gives you the correct 8,000 for Indians. And then you say 4,000 times 25,000 over 25 over 5. It gives you the correct 20,000.